Hello everybody and welcome to Fintech Week London. I'm Tyler from the Fintech Times and today I'm very happy to be joined by Alex Mifsud of Weavr.io. Alex, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, and thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us. Well, before we go on with our conversation, why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about who you are, what your position is at the company and what Weavr sets out to achieve?
Sure, I'm co-founder and CEO at Weavr.io, and the company is really putting together a set of tools to make it possible for any digital business to integrate financial services into their applications. And we know that's quite a hard thing to do because financial services is a highly regulated industry, and our whole focus is around creating technologies and operating models that make it easier for these innovators, but also safe for the financial institutions that are going to be powering those financial services.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you very much for giving us that insight. I think what's really interesting about your company is what it sets out to achieve. How would you describe the mission of Weavr.io?
Yes, our whole mission really is about enabling any financial service to be integrated into any digital application where customers can benefit. And of course, there are many financial services, there are many digital applications, and there are many customer situations. And we're trying to really create a comprehensive way of doing things that we can really cover most cases that can actually create some value for the end customer through the use of financial service in context.
That's fantastic. And when I was doing a little bit of background research on your company, one thing that really struck me is that it was described as being open but secure by design. What does that mean to you?
Well, let me start with the second bit, secure by design. So many of the innovators we work with, they are in digital businesses where the world of digital has got this absolute freedom to combine different pieces of software. Right? Nobody needs a license to write software. It's a very kind of free industry in a way. But of course, the world of financial service isn't. There are many obligations to keep customer data secure, to make sure no one gets scammed, to make sure fraud doesn't happen. And so you've got this mismatch, if you like, in how these two industries work together. And to make it secure by design is important because the developer who wants to integrate these financial services doesn't want to have to do all the heavy lifting that banks' IT systems have to do. And we do that work for them. So we create the secure by design piece so that developers who want to integrate financial services don't have to do it for themselves. It in a way comes for free by using the Weavr platform. Now, you can easily be very secure by being very prescriptive in how things get done and what gets done. And of course, that would defeat the purpose. The whole power of digital is the freedom with which we can put different elements together, data, user experience, different sources, to make a solution work. And so the openness is about how you can continuously add new things to the solution without having to go and tear it up and start from scratch. And we've designed our technology very much like say the Android operating system for phones, right? It serves all the app developers to be able to write all those wonderful apps we use, but it also gives freedom to device manufacturers. So there isn't just one device manufacturer that can provide Android phones. You get many different brands that can use the operating system to provide services. And that openness creates a really great ecosystem for innovation, both from the financial provider side as well as from the side of the digital innovator.
That's very interesting. And when also on that note, you talk about connecting the innovators to the payment distributors. And in terms of collaboration, it's something that even discussed here at Fintech Week London. We've talked about how collaboration is so important to the payment industry. But what is further collaboration going to do to payment innovation? And sort of a second part to that question is, who do you think should be collaborating together the most?
Yes. First of all, the financial industry itself consists of a whole collaboration of different technologies. Right? There are processors, there are people who help verify identities, there are companies that have licenses from the regulator. So it's already built out of many parts, basically. But now when you're adding the industries in which financial services are being embedded, that might be an electronic marketplace, or it might be a digital application for finding your next house, or for getting an education. There are many different contexts in which these financial services can be embedded. Then the collaboration becomes more complex, because you have different contexts which create different levels of risk. So we, as an industry, we're still discovering how to take advantage of those contexts, so that an application designed for financing your education will have different risks than an application for parking your car, for example. And so that collaboration now needs a way not to have a one-size-fits-all approach to it, but a way to be able to understand context and be able to tune risk systems to so that things aren't over secure for something that actually doesn't need it to be, at the penalty of the customer experience.
Mm. You've described brilliantly there the different contexts of embedded finance, and I think it's something that's so exciting to see how it's applicable in almost every aspect of life, really. And just following on from that note of sort of breaking down embedded finance, are there any, your company is at the forefront of embedded finance, which is at the forefront of fintech, right? So is there any defining characteristics of embedded finance that you've noticed in your company that you think are going to come to define the sector in 2022?
Well, we are, along with others in the space, defining this concept of embedded finance, right? We're really creating the tools, but also the concepts in which the different parties work together, be it financial institutions or digital innovators or vendors. And one of the things that we discovered is, again, going back to that context question, nobody really wants to take care of the context, because the financial institutions, the banks, they can't afford to learn about every single domain, whether that's car parking or education or real estate or logistics, that their APIs are going to be used in. At the same time, the software companies that are building those applications really don't want to do the heavy lifting and the risk management that typically banks would have done. So there's this gap in the middle. This gap that if you don't do it, you will have a one-size-fits-all solution that will not create the experiences that we want. But at the same time, no one wants to have to take responsibility for. And that's become the defining characteristic of Weavr. It's basically saying that, hold on a moment, if we can solve this problem, which we call contextual risk, contextual compliance, then we can make it much easier for digital innovators to simply take solutions, put them into their software, and those solutions will just work. And they won't just work, they'll also keep the banks happy that somebody is taking care of that risk and compliance aspect. And we call that concept plug-and-play finance, because in a way, the innovator, the digital innovator that's embedding the financial service, doesn't have to understand anymore how the financial service works. All they have to know is what it will do for their application. They'll just slot it into their software and it will just work. And that's the concept of plug-and-play finance that Weavr is really pioneering.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. When I was preparing for this interview with you, I saw that you were really driving this sort of emerging space within embedded finance, which is really exciting. And you've gone on to describe why that's beneficial and how that would work to make things simpler. We've noticed in the fintech industry especially that the customer experience, and maybe not just the customer experience, but the experience of people using fintech is so important to its success, right? So in terms of plug-and-play finance, how do you think that's going to affect the experience of the technology?
Well, the experience we're all pushing towards is that when the end customer comes across the financial service, they come across the financial service at the point it is relevant. So, if you're looking to book a holiday, you're probably more concerned about the destination, maybe your budget, the type of holiday you want to have. But at some point in the process, you're going to think about, can I afford this holiday? what kind of insurance do I need for this particular destination, for this particular sort of activity. And it's when those things happen that financial services should be offered to you in a way that is relevant to your question. Doing that is really quite hard. It means really the digital application developer having to understand the world of financial service and being able to design the financial service for that application. And that's where plug and play finance comes in really handy, by having the solutions built in a way that they can be, that the developer can just pick and choose the right moment to make them available and the right integration within the overall experience so that it's completely seamless for the end customer. That becomes really an enabling, an enabling tool so that the creativity of digital application providers can be the limiting factor, not the APIs that happen to be provided by financial service companies.
And that is really the space that Weavr is working to pioneer and drive forward, and it seems like you're doing a really, really great job. And my final question for you, because we've just got one more question, is you've just finished, obviously, your panel. You've come fresh off the stage to us, which we're very grateful for, so thank you very much. What does it mean to be at Fintech Week London this year for you?
Well, first of all, we're really in the first few months following the pandemic, when a lot of things were being done online. The pandemic has also been a transformational time for society, how we work, how we pay for things, how we encounter a lot of the world we interact in. And so it really feels like a start of a new era. There's also been changes in the markets recently, especially in the technology markets. And those are also a big influence. And coming to events like this is when you reconnect with people you've known, and you can sort of see the big changes everybody's gone through, and also the big changes, how we're all reacting to the big changes ahead of us. It's these kind of events that you can't really replicate online. That sense of very direct conversation and an idea sparking off another part of that of the conversation, leading to another idea.
It's very refreshing to see physical people and fresh faces, especially after 2 years. I completely agree with you. There are benefits to having online Zoom meetings, but it's just face to face. It's just so much better, and hopefully it will continue. Fingers crossed. But Alex, it's been a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of Fintech Week London.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.